The scholarship student my wife was funding decided to drop out of college to launch a startup. My wife praised his visionary courage. Today, he lost $15,000 investing in a cyber cafe franchise. Tomorrow, he'd lose $150,000 on a boutique hotel concept. The day after that, he'd torch $1.5 million in the stock market. I tried to offer some well-meaning advice, suggesting he return to school to finish his degree. I didn't expect my wife, Elena, to snap at me first. "Do you think everyone is content being a trophy husband like you?" she spat. "Just because you have no ambition, don't project your jealousy onto him. If you dare crush his enthusiasm again, I'm filing for divorce." Before I could respond, she turned to comfort the boy. "Failure is just a stepping stone to success. You keep investing, Caleb. I've got your back." Later, after I gave my full support to Elena's charity case, she ended up jumping off a building. Watching Caleb Reed lose another million in the market, I finally couldn't hold back. Purely out of kindness, I tried to intervene. "Caleb, entrepreneurship isn't gambling. Finish your undergrad, get the knowledge base, then plan for the future." Before I could finish, Caleb's eyes reddened instantly. His shoulders trembled as if I'd poked a fresh wound, and tears pattered against the glass surface of the coffee table, blooming like little flowers. "Ethan, you just look down on me." He choked, his Adam's apple bobbing. "You think because I come from nothing, I should stay nothing. I should just go back to the trailer park." I didn't have time to explain before the master bedroom door burst open. Elena Vance stormed out, hair disheveled, her silk nightgown slipping off one shoulder to reveal a dark red hickey on her collarbone. I couldn't tell if it was from last night or from comforting Caleb just moments ago. "Are you done yet?" Her voice was so shrill the chandelier seemed to vibrate. I opened my mouth. "I just think that smack." The slap rang in my ears, leaving a high-pitched whine. Stars burst in my vision, and the metallic taste of blood flooded my mouth. Elena's hand hovered in midair, her fingertips trembling from the force of the blow. "I don't care what you think," she hissed. "You useless leech." Her words were like shards of glass driving into my heart. "You have no ability to make money yourself, so you want to drag everyone else down into the mud with you? Caleb has ambition. He has guts. Who are you to throw cold water on him?" Clutching my burning face, I saw Caleb turn away. His shoulders were shaking, his sobs quiet as a kitten's. In that moment, I couldn't tell if he was grieving or stifling a laugh. Elena pulled Caleb into her arms, gently patting his back, her voice dropping to a soothing murmur. "Don't be afraid. Failure is the mother of success. A few losses mean nothing. You just charge ahead. I'll cover you." The chandelier continued to sway, casting shadows that stretched and shrank on the floor like a silent mockery. I stood there, half my face numb, the other half scorching hot, with only one phrase buzzing in my ears. "Useless leech." Elena glared back at me. "If you dare strike at Caleb's confidence again, we are done." "Okay, fine. From now on, I won't interfere in anything regarding him." Leaving those words hanging in the air, I quietly returned to my room and pulled the printed divorce papers from my desk drawer. Just then, the door creaked open. Caleb walked in holding a glass of warm water. "Ethan, don't take it to heart." His voice was light as a feather, but carried a hook. "Elena is just stressed because she cares. She's afraid you'll hold me back." I looked down and signed the agreement, the pen tip tearing through the paper like it was slicing through skin. Caleb placed the water on the corner of the desk, his fingernails tapping against the rim. "Elena says you're a mooch, but she actually pities you." He smiled, revealing sharp canines, looking like a wolf pup learning to bite. After all, he leaned in, his breath hot behind my ear. Not everyone can lose Elena's money and still make her feel like it was worth it. I gripped the pen until my knuckles turned white. As if anticipating my reaction, Caleb took a half step back. The water glass was accidentally knocked over with a clatter. Warm water flooded the agreement, soaking the name, Elena Vance, until it crinkled. "Oops, slippery fingers." He shrugged, a smug smile revealing itself as he turned away. "Get some sleep, Ethan. Don't stay mad at Elena. After all, without her, you're nothing." The moment the door clicked shut, I stood up to reprint the ruined agreement. But then I noticed the USB drive I kept plugged into my computer was gone. It contained the algorithmic trading model I had spent 3 months coding. Its value wasn't something that could be measured in mere dollars. I chased after him immediately. "Stop!" Caleb feigned ignorance. I grabbed him by the collar and slapped him across the face. "Did I give you permission to touch my things?" Caleb clutched his swelling cheek, looking at me with wide, aggrieved eyes. "Ethan, I know you look down on my background, but you can't insult my dignity." Caleb stood up, looking ready to fight back. Before this, I had tolerated him because of his youth, but now he was asking for humiliation. With a simple tactical maneuver, I slammed him heavily onto the floor again. My right hand pinned his wrists while my left searched his pockets for my missing drive. Ethan Cole. Elena appeared holding a glass of red wine. Without asking a single question, she hurled the entire glass at my forehead. Blood and wine instantly dyed my white shirt crimson. Caleb threw himself into Elena's arms like a child. Elena, I was just being nice and bringing him water, but he accused me of stealing. Elena looked at me with eyes full of rage. I tried to explain. The data on that drive. Elena ruthlessly cut me off. Does bullying him give you a sense of accomplishment? Get out. Now. Get the hell out of my house. I froze. 5 years of marriage, and she was kicking me out for a stranger. In that moment, my heart finally went cold. I took out the signed divorce papers, the backup copy, and threw them in front of her. Boring. Sign it. I'll leave immediately. Elena pinched the thin sheets of A4 paper, looking at them like a bad script. Divorce papers? Her voice rose with disdain. Next second, she let out a cold, brittle laugh. Ethan, you've grown a spine? Threatening me with divorce now. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. You think this will force me to kick Caleb out? Save your breath. I didn't answer, just handed her the pen, my hand surprisingly steady. She stared at me for 2 seconds, the corner of her mouth curling in mockery, as if certain I would be on my knees begging for forgiveness eventually. Fine, I'll grant your wish. The pen scratched across the paper. The signature Elena Vance was scrawled, but sharp, like 2 knives stabbed into the page. On the final stroke, she pressed down hard, the nib piercing the paper and splattering a dot of ink. She slapped the agreement against my chest, the paper's edge stinging my skin. Get out. Go see how a useless leech like you survives without me. The air smelled of red wine mixed with the sharp tang of her perfume. I could smell the unhidden thrill in her breath. I lowered my eyes, folded the agreement, and tucked it into my suit jacket. The sound of the zipper closing felt like the final lock clicking shut on a 5-year marriage. Elena. I looked up, saying her name for the last time, my voice as calm as a weather report. I hope your safety net holds. I turned and opened the door. The cold corridor wind rushed in, messing up the hair at her temples. She didn't reach up to fix it, just stood there with her arms crossed under the light, as if she could already see my destitute future. As the door closed, her light, airy voice drifted from behind me. Don't come back crawling like a dog begging me later. I glanced back, looking past Elena, directly at Caleb behind her. I sneered. Taking my things comes with a price. Elena slammed the door shut. Inside, I heard Caleb's cheerful voice. Elena, I got my eye on some killer stocks. Lend me another 10 million. Okay, Elena replied, her voice dripping with indulgence. As long as you work hard, borrow as much as you need. Caleb didn't know that the stock information on that USB drive was personally encrypted. Simply put, every stock marked as a strong buy was guaranteed to go to zero. I had just stepped out of the villa, the fingerprint lock clicking shut behind me. Before I could even turn on a flashlight, my phone vibrated in the darkness like it was about to explode. Caleb Reed. I stared at the name on the screen for 3 seconds before sliding to answer. Ethan. Without Elena around, he dropped the act. Without Elena, you're just going to be sleeping on the streets, huh? His voice was light, full of contempt. Too bad. Even if you crawled back to Elena like a dog right now, she wouldn't spare you a glance. I didn't bother with pleasantries. Where's the drive? I have it. He laughed aloud. Ethan, your model is amazing. If I buy according to this, I should make nearly 200% in less than a week. It's a pity. He dragged out the vowel, as if afraid I couldn't hear him. I not only stole your model, I stole your wife. I should really thank you. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling window of a nearby cafe, the city lights sprawling out before me. Correction on 2 points. First, Elena has already signed the divorce papers. Second, I paused, lowering my voice so it sounded like a razor blade against his eardrum. She isn't something worth keeping, so you didn't steal anything. You want her? You can pick her up from the trash. The line went quiet for half a second before exploding into laughter. Ethan, still acting tough. Fine, I won't hold back then. I just hope when you're starting in the gutter, your mouth is still this hard. After all, you're just a useless leech. He hung up abruptly, leaving only the dial tone. I stood in the dark, tossed the phone onto the sofa, and dialed another number. Mr. Cole. It was the executive partner at Horizon Capital, his voice raspy from late-night overtime. 2 things. I opened a fridge and pressed a bottle of ice water against my temple. First, terminate all betting agreements with Vance Reed Media. Second, take all the supplier lists, client data, and cash flow projections we hold, Encrypt everything and cut off their external access permissions. Understood. The response was immediate, without hesitation. Legal will send the letters by 8:00 a.m. I hung up, twisted the cap off the water, and downed it. The chill slid down my throat to my stomach, dousing the fire inside. I had achieved commercial success long ago. For years, I had focused entirely on my family, only to be treated by Elena as a useless deadbeat. She had no idea that without the stable partnerships I had facilitated through my portfolio companies, her own abilities would have left her bankrupt years ago. But this was fine. 5 years to see someone's true colors wasn't too high a price. I looked down at my reflection in the glass. The wine and blood washed away, leaving only a faint scar near my eye. I whispered, "Elena, let's see who ends up kneeling like a stray dog." To clear my head, I reserved a table for one at a high-end restaurant. I chose an obscure corner by the window. I had just draped my suit jacket over the chair when a sickly sweet Elena drifted through the air. Caleb? He was wearing a bespoke charcoal suit, the cuff revealing half of a rose gold watch. A Patek Philippe. I had one at Sotheby's last year. I had left it in the master bedroom the day of the divorce. I hadn't expected it to end up on his wrist. Elena sat opposite him, her fingertips wiping away non-existent cream from the corner of his mouth. They were leaning in close, the picture of a couple in the honeymoon phase. I looked down and cut my steak, the knife scraping the porcelain plate with a faint ting. Caleb looked up first. His pupils contracted, then he smiled, his teeth gleaming. "Ethan," he intentionally raised his voice. "What a coincidence. You can afford to eat here." Elena followed his gaze, her eyes sweeping over me like I was an out-of-season exhibit. "Ethan," she swirled her red wine, her lips as red as if she'd just fed on blood. "Moving up in the world? Which sugar mama are you clinging to now that you can afford this place?" I set down my knife and fork and dabbed my mouth with a napkin. "I'm surprised CEO Vance has the leisure to dine. I heard your company was cut off by 13 suppliers in a week, and Horizon halted your valuation bets. I thought you'd be busy putting out fires." "You bug me." Elena looked stern for a split second before chuckling, tracing the rim of her glass. "Sorry to disappoint, but this isn't a fire. I mortgaged the company, along with all my personal assets. I gave it all to Caleb to invest. Next week," she drawled, her eyes dancing. "Next week we top the wealth charts. When that happens, I'll buy you a drink." Caleb played along, raising his champagne. The glass chimed against her lips. Elena trusts me so much. How could I let her lose? He looked at me, his eyes shining with that specific malice of the spoiled and young. "Ethan, don't be jealous when the time comes." I didn't respond. I simply took out my phone, pulled up the real-time market data, and slid it across the table toward them. On the screen, the 3 dark horse stocks Caleb had gone heavy onward, diving off a cliff. The red numbers, indicating losses, were blinding. I repeated softly, "A pity. It seems the person you entrusted isn't reliable." Elena's expression finally cracked. She grabbed Caleb's wrist, her nails digging into his skin. "What is happening?" Caleb's Adam's apple bobbed. He spilled a circle of champagne on the tablecloth, but he kept up the facade. "Elena, trust me. This is just a small correction before the breakout." Hearing this, Elena's face relaxed. "Ethan, you really are despicable, trying to drive a wedge between us." I smiled, stood up, and paid the bill. "Drive a wedge? I just hope when the real storm hits, your love remains as solid as gold." "Ethan Cole, get your ass out here." At 2 a.m., the iron gate of my new villa shook with thunderous banging. I stood on the second-floor terrace with a coffee, watching the security feed. Elena was disheveled, and Caleb was cowering behind her like a kicked dog. As the security guard opened the gate, Elena kicked over one of my flower pots with her high heel. Caleb trailed behind, his face paler than the moonlight, clutching his phone, the screen still glowing with the stock interface. 3 flatlining graphs, dead as grave markers. "You did this." Elena threw her Hermes bag at my feet. The zipper burst, spilling a thick stack of mortgage contracts. Horizon cut funding, suppliers breached contracts, and now the stocks. Her voice cracked, nails digging into her palms. $10 million. "Ethan, are you playing me?" I bent down and picked up a contract, dusting it off. Elena's signature was on top, the final stroke piercing the paper just like on the divorce agreement. "CEO Vance, you signed a mortgage yourself." I swirled my coffee. As for the stocks, I turned to Caleb, smiling. Didn't Caleb swear it was just a small correction before the breakout? Caleb suddenly lunged at me, only to be pinned against the fountain by a bodyguard. The marble edge cracked against his chin, blood seeping out instantly. "Ethan, I was wrong." In his struggle, the Patek Philippe smashed against the stone rim. the face shattering into a spiderweb. You said there was a price. Those stocks were clearly. Clearly what? I crouched down, lifting his chin with a coffee spoon. Clearly encrypted by me? Or clearly you didn't realize when you stole it that every by signal was a reverse indicator I programmed. Elena's scream pierced the night sky. She rushed forward to claw at my face, but was blocked by another bodyguard. She suddenly began to dry heave, mascara streaking 2 black lines down her face. Ethan, her voice dropped, carrying a pleading tone I hadn't heard in 5 years. Part of that money was for my mom's medical bills. I paused. Caleb seized the opportunity to break free, scrambling to hug Elena's legs. Elena, he set us up. He's evil. Elena looked at me with venom. Ethan, how can you be so vicious? He's just an innocent newcomer, and you used such dirty tactics on him? I laughed coldly. Innocent newcomer? I didn't see you defending me when he stole my property. I didn't see you treating him like a newcomer when you were cozying up to him. Elena's face turned purple. If you kneel and apologize to Caleb and me right now, I might void the divorce agreement and let you come back. Wait, I interrupted her. You seem to have misunderstood. I have no intention of remarrying you. Elena's face went pitch black. She forced herself to remain calm and dialed the head of Horizon Capital. Hello, I want to renegotiate our cooperation. The manager on the other end said he couldn't authorize it and gave her a number for the owner. Elena, grasping at a straw, dialed quickly. The next second, my phone rang. Elena stared at me in disbelief. Impossible. I answered the call under her shocked gaze. Horizon Capital, managing partner Ethan Cole speaking. How can I help you? Elena looked like her spine had been pulled out. Her heel twisted, and she collapsed onto the marble edge of the fountain. Caleb crawled over to help her, his fingers trembling so hard he couldn't grip her arm. Impossible. She mumbled, her voice rasping like sandpaper. How can you be the owner of Horizon? Ethan, you acted like a useless leech for 5 years. Acted? I signaled the bodyguards to step back and flicked a non-existent speck of dust from my suit cuff. I just wanted to focus on my family. Caleb looked up, eyes bloodshot. The models, the code, the data, it was all fake? You dug a pit for me to jump in. No, the model is real. The encryption is real. You were just too stupid and missed the key. Caleb screamed. You played me. You left that drive on the desk on purpose. Played? I scoffed. Does the thief blame the homeowner for making the lock too pretty? Before I finished, Elena suddenly lunged, grabbing my wrist, her nails sinking in. Ethan, her voice was dripping with honey, vibrating with a tremor I hadn't heard in years. Let's go home, okay? I was confused. It was all this shameless man. She turned and shoved Caleb hard. He convinced me to mortgage everything. Forgive me this once, and I'll kick him out immediately. Caleb fell onto the cobblestones, forehead bleeding, looking up in disbelief. Elena. Elena didn't even look at him. She bent her knees and knelt directly on the ground. Ethan, we were husband and wife. Can you bear to watch my mother die? Save her. Save us. She reached out to hug my leg. I took a half step back, letting her fingers grasp empty air. The night wind swept over the water, making her shiver. I looked down, my voice as calm as the night. Elena, on the day you signed the papers, you said, get out, go see how you survive without me. I crouched down, meeting her gaze, speaking every word clearly. Now, I am returning those words to you untouched. Caleb struggled to his feet, stumbling over to pull at Elena. Elena, let's go. He wouldn't dare actually drive people to death. Shut up. Elena backhanded him across the face. Caleb fell back into the fountain water. It's all your fault. If not for you, how could there be cracks in my relationship with Ethan? She turned back, makeup washed into 2 dark trenches by her tears, voice hoarse. Ethan, what will it take for you to let me off? I raised a hand, cutting off her delusion. Look at yourself. Look at this pathetic state. Do you think you have any value left to me? I just want you both to get the hell out of my villa. Immediately, I turned and signaled. The bodyguards stepped up, grabbing one each, dragging them toward the gate like dead dogs. As the iron gates closed, Elena's wails and Caleb's curses were swallowed by the night. I stood under the porch light and checked my watch. Exactly midnight. 5 years. From marriage to divorce, from rock bottom to the peak. It ended right at this moment. If not for Elena's reminder, I would have nearly forgotten one thing. I picked up the phone and called the hospital. Cancel the medical aid for Elena Vance's mother. I saw Elena again at her mother's funeral. The AC in the funeral home was blasting. I stood in the back row, watching the staff adjust a cheap paper wreath. The words deepest condolences were faded, the edges yellow and curling. Elena knelt to the left of the mourning hall, hair in a messy bun, strands sticking to the tear tracks on her face. There were no relatives behind her, no friends. Even Caleb, who had been glued to her side, was missing. I walked up and placed a white chrysanthemum before the refrigerated casket. It was made of the cheapest cedar wood. 3 days ago, the funeral home had called asking if I would cover the costs, saying the family couldn't even afford the cremation fee. I agreed, with one condition: my name would not appear on the tombstone. "What are you doing here?" Elena's voice was like sandpaper on glass. She pushed herself up from the floor, the knees of her black pants stained gray with dust. "Crying crocodile tears?" I took a half step back to avoid the grime under her fingernails. "I paid the funeral costs," I reminded her. "At least wait until the service is over to start acting." "Acting?" Her voice pitched up, shaking the overhead lights. "Don't you know how my mom died? You cut the medical aid." "You?" "I did." I nodded, cutting through her sobs. "I was also the one who warned you not to sign those mortgage contracts so quickly." Caleb wasn't there to pull her sleeve this time. She stumbled, nearly knocking over the incense table. "You knew my mom relied on that money to live. Cutting the funding was murder." "I murdered her?" I laughed, the sound echoing coldly off the tile walls. "Elena, when you took your entire net worth and gave it to a 20-something kid to gamble on stocks, did you think about your mother's medical bills then?" Her lips trembled. Her mascara had smudged into 2 black bruises under her eyes. I could have earned it back." Elena's sob stuck in her throat, turning into a dry heave. She grabbed the casket, nails scraping white marks into the wood grain. "You're taking revenge. Just for the divorce." "No." I pulled a folded piece of paper from my suit pocket. It was a screenshot of the last text she sent me 3 months ago. "My mother is none of your business. Don't use her as leverage." I placed the paper in front of her. Ash from the incense fell on it like a layer of thin snow. "When your mother actually needed saving, you were watching fireworks with Caleb. The only one crying crocodile tears here is you." I turned and walked out. The sunlight outside was blinding. Squinting, I saw a black sedan across the street. Horizon's legal team was waiting for me to sign the acquisition papers for whatever assets remained from Elena's bankruptcy liquidation. Behind me, Elena's scream tore through the air. "Ethan, you'll rot in hell." I opened the car door, shutting the screaming out. As we drove away, the gray building shrank in the rearview mirror. I remembered our wedding day 5 years ago. Elena in white, holding a bouquet, telling me from now on, my mom is your mom. Now, her mother lay in the cheapest box available, and I had paid for the fire to burn it. That was all. A week later, I received a package from Elena. Opening it, I immediately understood why Caleb had disappeared. I carefully unpacked the box. The first thing I touched was cold plastic wrap, wound tight like a frozen snake. Peeling back the first layer, I saw 10 pale fingers neatly arranged in 2 rows. The fingertips faced outward, black dirt still under the nails. The severed ends were jagged and irregular, not a clean cut, but hacked off with something blunt. The blood had drained, leaving the bone shards exposed like broken chalk. Under the fingers lay an unlocked phone. I tapped the screen. A video played. The camera shook violently, as if the person holding it was laughing or crying. Elena's face suddenly filled the frame. She was gaunt, cheekbones protruding, dark circles under her eyes, but wearing bright crimson lipstick that smeared to her ears. "Ethan," her voice was raspy. "I got the debt back for you." She stepped aside, revealing the person behind her. Caleb was strapped to a rusty iron chair. His arms were tied behind him, his wrists ending in bandaged stumps. The gauze was filthy, blood soaked through and scabbed over. A rag was stuffed in his mouth. His cheeks were sunken. His teeth were gone, gums swollen purple and black. Saliva mixed with blood dripped down his chin. Seeing the camera, his pupils contracted violently. He made muffled, pleading sounds. Elena turned the camera back to herself, laughing until her shoulders shook. I checked. He doesn't have a sick sister. It was all a lie. Metallic clanking came from off-screen as Caleb struggled. The video cut to another clip. Caleb was shaking like a leaf. Tears washed tracks through the blood on his face. Elena leaned close to his ear, her voice sickly sweet. "Don't worry. I won't let you die." She looked up at the lens, eyes empty yet manic. "Ethan, the person who destroyed our relationship has been punished. Can we start over now?" In the last 10 seconds, the camera zoomed out. Elena stood behind Caleb, hands on his shoulders, cheek pressed to his ear like a loving partner. She spoke to the camera, word by word. "Ethan, I'm giving him to you as a gift. Do you like it? If not, I can keep going." The screen froze on her twisted smile, then went black. I set the phone down, resealed the box, and called Horizon's PR department. "Handle some hazardous waste." I'll send the address. I paused and find Elena's location. She needs the police. After that, I called Elena. She answered immediately, sobbing. I finally waited for your call. Have you forgiven me, Ethan? Do you like the gift? I answered calmly. Elena, turn yourself in. You've lost your mind. Ethan, she giggled on the other end. I didn't do anything wrong. I just cleaned up the trash that came between us. Her voice was cloying, but in the background, I could hear Caleb's weak, rhythmic whimpering. I gripped the phone. Elena, don't be stupid. Give me the address. It's not too late. You don't like the gift. She sounded like she hadn't heard me, her tone petulant. It's okay. I'll prepare another one. I'll keep preparing them until you forgive me. And when you do, I'll give you a child. My heart felt nothing. It's impossible. Suddenly, Caleb's scream spiked, then cut off abruptly. The only sound was the heavy thud of the iron chair hitting the floor. Elena. I shouted at the silence. The line went dead. When the police broke down the door, the smell of blood in the abandoned cold storage unit had frozen into the ice. Caleb was bound to the chair, mutilated. Seeing the police badges, a broken laugh squeezed out of his throat. Based on the GPS from her phone, the police rushed to the roof of the warehouse. But hanging on the railing was only a single, empty woman's slipper and a wedding ring. Surveillance footage showed that after laughing at me on the phone, Elena turned and walked barefoot onto the roof. At 3:17 a.m., she looked down and straightened her messy nightgown one last time, like a girl going on a date. The next second, a white shadow fell. The darkness swallowed her final whisper, Ethan, I'm sorry. Watching the footage, I let out a long sigh. I signed a police statement and walked out of the station. The horizon was turning the color of a crab shell, the morning breeze carrying the scent of rust. My assistant called, asking how to handle Elena's personal effects. I didn't hesitate. Donate everything in her name to those in need. What about the wedding photos and things related to you? Burn them. From now on, this woman would not only vanish from my life, but would be erased from my memory, bit by bit. As for Caleb, broken by Elena's torture, his mind snapped. He was committed to a psychiatric facility for mandatory treatment. With everything settled, I prepared to start my world tour. When we first got married, Elena and I had promised to travel the world together. But back then, she was always too busy with work. She always said she'd go with me once she was done. But with my secret help, her company flourished, and her ambitions swelled along with it. Gradually, she lost herself, leading to the mistakes of today. Now, I will embark on this journey alone, welcoming a beautiful life on my own terms. Story complete.